We're translating technical language into business language or business language into technical language. You said so I chose. No, I didn't choose to be a business analyst. I didn't even look for a position of a business analyst because I didn't even know there was such. Because I get a chance to speak to people in different levels. And that's what business analysis is all about, really. It's asking questions. Business analyst is someone who is the link between the business, the client, and the tech. Business analyst doesn't know anything. A business analyst that goes in knowing everything will build you a nice running Datsun, right? Whereas you are looking for a BMW 3 Series.
Yeah.
But the Datsun is running, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted a BMW 3 Series.
You are responsible for making sure that you understand the customer's ask, you understand what the business asks in terms of the product that needs to be built, and how you translate that ask into requirements that the tech team understands.
As a business analyst, that's the chaos that you need to be part of it. That's the chaos you need to welcome. That's the chaos that you need to be excited about, right?
Welcome to another episode of 360 Careers. Guys, today I have another exciting conversation with a business analyst. So guys, you know at 360 Careers, we bring you professionals from different industries and different career paths. So today we're gonna be talking everything about a business analyst or business analysis as a career. And today our guest is Phumlani Mngxekeza. I call him Prapums. Prapums, welcome to the podcast. So just a bit about Prapums. So Phumlani has over 26 years of experience as a business analyst, working across a lot of organizations in South Africa, including Old Mutual, Sanlam, Liberty, DVT, Investec, just to name a few. So he has knowledge and experience of a career spanning, across decades, not just, a few years, but decades. So we're going to be having a very interesting conversation today. Prapums.
Yes, sir.
When you hear that you've been a business analyst for over 26 years, when you hear that number, like what goes through your mind?
It feels like it's been 5 years only. That's how much things are moving and changing in this industry and this career. So it doesn't feel that it's been that long because everything is new every now and then. So
yeah. So tell us a bit, man. Tell us a bit, because I would imagine that business analysis back then when you started, was it the same as it is today, or how different it was when you started just over 26 years ago?
So the concept of business analysis is the same, but the way that things are done now, it's totally different. It has evolved over the years, right? It's evolved to something not just what we call a translator. That's how we were labeled at the first, that we are translators. We're translating technical language into business language or business language into technical language. So now it has really evolved. It's all about really being involved until the solution is there. So lot has changed, but the basics are the same. Nothing changed from there.
Yeah. So tell me about how you started, because it was quite fascinating when I actually, had a look at your profile. I'm like, Prapums has been a business analyst for over, it's almost 30 years now if you think about it, right? So that's quite a long time. So back then, was it something that's popular? Because I think right now it's popular, right? Like a business analyst is one of the sought after careers at the moment, right? And with the advancement of tech and, the booming tech market. But back then, was it when you decided to become a business analyst, like what made you decide to become a business analyst? Was it something popular? Where did you learn about a career called business analysis?
It's a good thing that you asked. You said I chose. No, I didn't choose to be a business analyst. I didn't even look for a position of a business analyst because I didn't even know there was such a career at the time. But how it became, it's when I joined Old Mutual for the second time. I've started at Old Mutual, then I left, and I went back for the second time. They brought me in as a tester, which was also a new career for me because I didn't even know there was a thing called testing. But they brought me in because of the product experience that I had, because I was working as an administrator before the time, before I left them. So I came in now as a tester. They said, you've got the experience, you know the product, you know the client that we want to migrate into this new application that they've bought at the time. So I came in as a tester. So during my testing, I was able to write the bugs. When I write the bugs, I give a lot of detail. So I don't just say, this has failed, right? I say, this has failed, and this is the things that I've picked up in my testing, and I suspect the reason for the failure would be this, right? So from the developers and the project manager at the time, when they saw the results and how I write my feedback on the testing, they asked me if don't you want to move into the business analysis because I think you are detailed, because the feedback that you're giving us is very detailed and we need someone with that skill in this space of business analysis. Okay, let me.
So you didn't know what it was?
I didn't even know. I didn't even know there's something that called business analysis exists. So I just went in there and because I wrote that, I liked writing things in a way that a next person can understand, right? So I was just detailed in my writing at the time, or write a full page just to explain the bug and the process that I followed to get to the bug.
And some of us, we hate documentation. So that's luckily we have people like you.
If you ask me now, I hate documentation right now. I think then I did it without even knowing it's documentation. It was just giving feedback on why I feel this has failed. Also, I was so afraid not to say things have failed, but it's me who tested incorrectly. So the reason I had to give a context of my results was to make sure that even if it's my mistake, it's an honest mistake. It was not negligence or lack of understanding. So I had to write everything in such a way that the next person understands that, this person did give some thought in his testing.
So then when you started then, this new career or this new role as a business analyst that you didn't know, something might have, or something definitely interested you about this role for you to stay, in this career path for over 26 years. Like, what did you love about it? Like, once you started doing this, like what clicked?
So for me, as you know me, I like talking. I like conversating with people. So that for me was the attraction. That's what kept me there, because I get a chance to speak to people in different levels. And that's what business analysis is all about, really. It's asking questions. It's being curious about things. So that's me. I enjoy talking to people. That's why I'm still here, because I still like probing and asking questions and an opportunity to learn new things. Right? Yeah. So that's why.
So Prapums, you usually get a lot of answers when someone asks, like, what is a business analyst, especially from people that are not close enough to tech, that don't really understand what a business analyst does, right? And I'm sure you've heard some shocking answers as well. So if you were to explain to someone who's not in tech, who's not close enough to this career, how would you explain a business analyst to this person?
Okay, business analysis, there's a BABOK explanation of what business analyst. BABOK is the BA book, right? It's a book that gives you all the basics of what business analysis should do. And it's created or come from the IIBA, which is the Institute for Business Analysts, right? So it's got its own explanation. People can go and check that. But from my side, what the business analyst is, a business analyst is someone who is the link between the business, the client, and the tech. Right?
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? As a business analyst, you are the mediator between these three parties. Mediation could also mean translation. So it's important to be bilingual, right?
So that's why they used to call it translators back in the days.
Yes. It is important to be bilingual in this. Bilingual, I mean, you also have to speak tech, you also need to also speak business. And in your overview of that is to also look at who's this solution that we're building for, which is then the client or the user, right? So the business analyst is that somebody that works with all these three stakeholders or parties to build something out. So business analyst daily job is to talk to people. And also, I would say, as a business analyst, the most information that you get is not during the meeting. It's things that are said outside the meeting. You could spend the whole day in a meeting, but you can live there thinking, but when you get outside, that's where you get most of that information. And as a business analyst, again, there's also another feeling that the business analyst just sits there and writes requirements. But business analyst is not.
Why does that happen though? Like why is it outside of the meeting where you get?
Okay, so what happens is when you're in a meeting, you've got a structured agenda where people will talk, and then you might be taking them through that. But when you go outside and you start asking individuals outside the meeting, but what do you think about this thing, right? Now you're probing for things that were not said in a meeting. During the meeting. And they also talk about when you listen between the lines as well. There's things that are not said in the conversations, but are important in terms of building the solution that you are doing. So a business analyst doesn't just sit and take instructions and write them down. You need to test those requirements. You need to make sure if Elec as a stakeholder says, Phumlani, build us this. What is it that we're trying to solve? Why are we doing this? We're solving it for who? Right? And then you then take that and then says, give me the ideas of what you want. You would give me a lot of ideas, but I need to question and test all those ideas and see if they are really going to bring us to what you want. Business analyst doesn't know anything. A business analyst that goes in knowing everything will build you a nice running Datsun, right? Whereas you are looking for a BMW 3 Series. But the Datsun is running, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted a BMW 3 Series because that's the person who thought he or she knew what needs to happen.
So if I were to put it simply, would I be right to say that as a business analyst, as someone who sits between tech and business and customers,
yes,
you are responsible for making sure that you understand the customer's ask, you understand what the business asks in terms of the product that needs to be built, and how you translate that ask into requirements that the tech team understands. And when the tech team builds, you are able to give feedback from tech that the business understands. Because these techies, they tend to talk about code and business people, they don't understand that language. So that's your job, basically, to make sure that
and to tell you that recently I was writing a feedback on a project that we're working on right now. And I went there and there's different audience in the email itself, right? So, but I went technical. We're moving this from this service to this spot and all of that, and then 3 feedbacks I got from the bankers. This was too technical. Next time. So it's important also when you work with people, understand where they're coming from, right? That stakeholder analysis. Every stakeholder that you work with, you need to have the background. Who's this person? What does this person know? How much does this person know? Right? So that when you talk or you write something, you write it in a language and level that person would understand, right? So you would have a CEO, but that CEO is not a tech person, he's a financial person. So you can't go there and start telling him about APIs and all of those things because he doesn't know what that means. You need to write it in a way that they understand what is happening. So a BA, the most important thing is to understand your stakeholders and try and speak the language that they understand, right? And as you said, you might speak the English that everyone understands. Then you get to the techies that they want you to start telling them about the servers and the APIs and all of that. You can't just say, this must move into that corner or that.
So you still need to understand that language.
That's very important. That's very important because at the beginning, one thing that I forgot to tell you, when the BAs started, there was also things called technical BAs, right?
I still see some of them even today.
I'll be surprised if there's companies that still have such, because that should be way of the past, right? Every BA has to be technical these days, right? I'm not saying you should be able to write a code, but you should be technical in your language. When you speak technical language.
Yeah.
Right? You need to be able to, when people are talking about the SQL script, you must understand what that is. When people talk about APIs, you must understand. When people are talking about the servers, you need to know what those things are and how do they work together to build, what language is going to be used, you need to
because
be
I can
that.
understand it can be very difficult for you to play that role if you don't understand that language, because you'll be lost.
Exactly.
As a business analyst.
So you won't be even...
You'll be speaking to tech, they'll be losing you because now you don't understand what APIs are, what SOAP service are. When you're talking to business, you won't understand what a business process is, what value... Yeah.
So it's important. That's why I'm saying, if there's a BA out there that believes he's not a technical BA, it's time to change. The world that we're living in, we're in the AI space, you need to be technical. If you don't know, you'll be left behind. You need to upgrade yourself and learn the technical language, right? There's technical language anywhere in the tech. Tech is tech, so you have to understand. You are in the tech space, so you have to speak tech.
That's a very good explanation, Brapos. So I want you to just share with us, like, when you look back, especially like in the beginning of your career, right? Because I think this could be relatable to someone maybe who's starting or who's new into this career, right? Because a lot of people, we get into these careers without really not knowing the inner workings of what am I going to be doing, right?
Yeah.
So what helped you survive and grow, especially earlier on when you step into this role and you did not have a clue about what this role was? Like, what helped you grow and survive and actually build a career?
So, business analysis, right? It's built from understanding your environment, right? Being curious and learn about the environment. You could be a call center agent working in a financial industry company for a bank. If you understand how things work in that bank, that's when you get curious, right? You then tomorrow you want to go and understand the call that I received. I forwarded it to Alec. Alec explained this thing to me. Then maybe tomorrow I need to go and sit with Alec to learn more about that product, what there was an issue with from the client. So for me, what happened was being curious, was trying to learn. So that's what helped me. Being curious, talk to people. There's nothing worse than someone who's an introvert in the PA space, because in there you can't be a loner. You need to be within people. You need to talk to people. You need to engage with people. And as a BA, more especially the new BA, don't avoid those difficult questions. Ask difficult questions. Nobody's gonna tell you, you're gonna say you're stupid because you're asking those questions. Ask those questions. They're important for your growth. They're important also to get to the right solution, right? So that is very important. And the other part that I wanna bring in here is, as a business analyst, all you need to do in your life is document, keep history of things that you do. When you speak, because there's nothing worse than speaking to you today, tomorrow I come to you and I ask you the same question, the same way I've asked it. It's different when I come back to you. I'm asking the same question, but I'm coming in a different angle. But if I come to you today and says, what's your name? And you tell me it's Alec, then I leave, and then I come back tomorrow, what's your name? Right? Then what do you think of me? So as a BA, if I ask you something, let me try and write it, right? Go and record it. As I said, challenge that as well.
So we'll get to the skills, right? I think after we break this down a bit further. But if I'm hearing from what you are sharing right now, it's very important that for someone who wants to become a BA, you can't be a reserved person. You can't be someone who wants to work alone. You have to be that person who's comfortable talking to people. You have to be someone who asks questions.
Yes.
In order to grow and actually survive and build a career as a business analyst.
True. Because remember that the business analyst, as I said, it has evolved, right? During the time. We had the system that was used, which is Waterfall, right? So where you start from discuss what the problem is, and then from discussing it, define it, and then from define it, you need to then build it, and then test it and all of that. But you have to write that document, which might take you 5 weeks to write, right?
Because and that was for the entire project.
For the entire project. And then we've moved away from that, then introduced Agile, right? Where we need to, build iteratively. So we build one small thing, and then we move to the next one using MVPs, right? And then other companies are still using the
Waterfall.
No, what to call bit of Waterfall and bit of Agile, hybrid model, where you use both. Because you would find in this one project, there's one piece that would require us to do Waterfall, but then the other pieces we can use the Agile. As a business analyst, that's the chaos that you need to be a part of it. That's the chaos you need to welcome. That's the chaos that you need to be excited about, right? Because it gives you an opportunity to ask questions, to talk to people, and then gives you an opportunity to challenge things. And at the end of the day, your solution, I'm telling you, would be the best. That's how I see it.
So if you were to just put yourself like back in those early days, right? Were there any moments where you felt like, there were challenges, or you just got into the role and something that you thrived in?
The challenge. A BA who doesn't have challenges today is the luckiest BA ever.
Yeah.
The one challenge is the ambiguity from the stakeholders, where they don't really know what they want. They said, we want this, but when you go away and try and do it, you realize this person is not what they want.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge number one. Challenge number two is that what I told you, that the way they perceive you as a BA would tell you what to do. You write it down, and then you give it to the developers to develop it, and then the developers will tell you, no, this is wrong. Rewrite it. Write it this way.
Yeah.
And that's another challenge that I had. And also the competing interests from the stakeholders,
always.
which is the biggest challenge, I think, that a business analyst come across, because those interests would be the nice where you have to tell this person, yes, I see this thing that you want. It's a nice to have, but what this other one wants, it's got more impact, right?
It's more critical.
It's more critical. Then you need to make them understand. And also, it's important to, when you do this, you co-create with them. You don't treat them as outsiders. They are not stakeholders. In that solution build, co-create with them. Get them involved, right? Even if by means of giving them, inviting them in your stand-ups once in a while, or having a weekly, where you bring them in and you show them how far you've gone with your work.
Yeah.
Right, and you show and tell kind of a thing that you do with them. You get them involved. So those are the challenges that at the beginning, no, I didn't know about that. I would leave the room frustrated because 3 people, they all want their work done.
How did you then overcome those challenges, especially the first one? Because I can understand, especially if someone who's new to the role, right? Because we spoke about this triangle of client, of business, of tech, right? Yeah. And if someone who's new, it's easy for you to be confused as well, right? And you're getting stakeholders that are giving you requirements that are not clear, and there's a lot of ambiguity around what is it that needs to be built. But you as a business analyst, you have to make sure that you get clarity, because then it's going to be difficult for tech to build something that's not clear. How did you deal with that challenge?
So at the beginning, I didn't know what to do, but talking to other people, share your frustration. But then the skill that I've developed I realized that one needs to develop is, as I said before, don't avoid to ask these questions to the stakeholders and explain to them what you're saying and what I understand, right? I'll say, this is what you are saying, this is what I understand you are saying, right? And then between the two of you, then we'll get to a point of agreeing exactly what you want. So hence I was saying, when you are given the instructions or the requirements, challenge them, test them and challenge them. Then it takes away that ambiguity, that gray line in between. It becomes clear.
Do you also find that, did you play it back? Because sometimes when you play something back to people, they like...
Exactly, playing back. That's why I says co-create. So sometimes draw a picture, right? Take a quick context diagram. Says, this is what you want. We put it in the middle, but these are the inputs that needs to go into what you want. These are the outputs does that make sense? Is that what you want? Throwing that small picture, then it makes clear sense maybe to that person and realize that, okay, what I'm looking for is not really this. And that as-is process, sometimes if you have to improve the existing system, right, you have to throw that as-is, and then says, from what I understand, this is the to-be that you want. And then from that session, no.
Yeah, that's very important, because in the beginning as well, and especially just growing into these leadership roles, I find that you would struggle to lend a message. But sometimes just drawing a picture the way I understand it, and then putting a picture in front of people, it then gives something that's common for people to look at for people, and then you get those, because people think differently, and people they conceptualize things differently. So sometimes I felt that when they see something, it's easier for everyone to then be on the same page. So that's the same with business analysis.
True. Because if you don't do that, some people, as I said, it's easy to read a picture than the words, and you can write a document. In one of the companies that I work, I wrote a full document, right? And then what I did, what happened after that, I gave it to them as a draft, right? The review. People didn't review the content, they reviewed the grammar, which was frustrating. So sometimes giving people a document and leave them to read is not nice. Sometimes it's best to bring them in the room, take them through the document.
Because even the interpretation, they might interpret it differently.
Exactly. So if you have, try not to, as a BA, to just communicate using technology. That face-to-face is best. Talk to the people. When you take them through the analysis that you've done, don't just send them a document with the analysis. You can send it to them up front, but call them into a room and then explain what it's in the piece of paper. And whilst you're doing that, you're drawing them pictures, you're making it easy for them. And you allow them to bring as well their input. As I said, as a BA, you must always go into a project as you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So as a BA, you go in as you don't know. You allow the people that want you to work on the solution to tell you what they want. All you do in order for you to know is probe. Ask questions. What is it that you want? Draw those pictures, right? And then I think that helped me in my career.
So one of the things that I've picked up was that you've spent the majority of probably the first half of your career in insurance, right, which is a different industry, and then probably another half in banking, right? So as a business analyst, did you find the role different in those two industries, or are there a lot of similarities in terms of how a business analyst operates in those industries?
They're all in financial industry.
Yeah.
Right? So there's three things actually that you always have to look out for, right? There's risk and compliance in all of them. Whatever solution that they want you to do, you need to check its risk and compliance is very important. It should be part of, even if you call non-functional requirements, risk and compliance, right? Number two, you need to make sure that the technical understanding of this work that you need to do, you have the proper of that in banking, right? And as well as in any financial services. There's not much difference. All the things that are important are the same, because all these industries are very much into risk and compliance, right? And you also need to have the client in mind. Client might be the client outside, the client of the bank, or the user that, let's say we're building something for call center agent.
An internal user.
An internal user. You need to have that in mind when you build a solution.
That's quite interesting. So then based on those, those skills, and I think we've spoken about a lot of different skills already that, that the business analyst, needs, and we'll still get to them. If I'm hiring a business analyst, right? I know that you've been part of a lot of interviews, right? Yes. Some of them actually you've done them together.
Yeah.
What do you look at when you look at a business analyst? Like, what do you look at when you're hiring a business analyst? Like, what's the difference between an average business analyst and a very strong business analyst?
That's a difficult one to pick up from the interview, Alec. But when I do the interview, always my main question is to understand. Sometimes you need to ask someone a question that is also vague. And you see how this person answers that question. So because that's for me one of the most important things as a BA, as a business analyst, that you need to have. Try and cut out that vagueness, or make it clear that you need to probe. What do you mean by that? Do I understand you well? This is what you want to know.
That's interesting. We used to use the same thing for software engineers to try and understand. Like, we'll give you a vague problem.
Yeah.
And then we want you to ask questions so that you can get clarity on what do you mean by this? What do you mean? And if you don't do that, we're like, this one, they don't know what they did. They're going to struggle. Yeah. So you guys do exactly the same thing.
I do exactly the same thing. That's one part that we need to look out for, right? But then there's other stuff that we cannot pick up during the interview. Well, someone can be a good speaker, but is that person able to analyze the information, right? Sanitize the data that he gets, right? And then draw pictures that will make it easy and document the information, which is other skills that you cannot pick up during the interview unless you're going to write a technical test. You ask him to write a technical test, ask him to draw a process document or whatever, right? But during the interview, those are the difficult things to pick up. But it's a matter of asking what the feeling about documentation, right? And the person who doesn't like documentation will tell you, and they will give you the reasons why. Documentation is important, but it's not the end of it all, right? You can document enough for people to understand, and then you find those that document a lot, that people are even scared to open the document that they've written, because it's a 226-page document.
Yeah, so, but also with that, I found, like in recent years, I found that there's sort of like similarities, because also as a business analyst, you don't just document. The certain pictures that you draw for operation people,
yes,
the certain pictures that you draw for business people, it's a different picture that you will present to tech people, but they all speak to the same thing, but because your audience is different.
Exactly.
Tell me about that.
I made a mistake recently as well, where I said, we're going to draw up a C4 diagram, and then these guys, what is a C4 diagram? Okay, sorry. It's not for you, but we'll draw that for the tech guys to understand what needs to happen. So it's important that, as I said again, understand your audience, understand your stakeholders, understand the language that you need to use. As you said, the pictures that you draw for a business person, like a context diagram. It's easy for that person to understand. And you do a AML diagram as well, which will work. But then when you go to your techies, you do all your C4, C3 diagrams for them to understand. And also very important, before I forget, I know it's not what you asked.
Yeah, no.
A business analyst is part of the solution until the end. So when the technical guys are busy building solution, they're doing solution design, you need to be part of that. Because at the end of the day, you don't just want to be there when it says, I've given you the requirements and you move back. You need to be there when they design the solution.
Because they might also interpret those requirements differently.
Or they might pick up something that you missed during that solution, which then is something you can quickly take and go back to the stakeholders and says, look, there's this other thing. Let's look at it, and then you go back again. So back to your question is, it's important that you understand your stakeholders, and then you give your stakeholders the correct artifacts. You cannot just include them in everything. You have to know that this one is for the stakeholders, right? And then the other one is for the users, which is the process, the flow, how things work.
No, because that's very important, because I find that some people do that, do those mistakes in interview. That's why I'm asking you, like, when you're hiring someone, like, what makes an average business analyst to, a strong business analyst? Because there was a guy that I once interviewed, and this guy was always like, every answer he was like, I'm a people's person, I sit with the people. We're like, dude, we want something practical. Like, if you're speaking to tech, if you're speaking to, so people need to understand those subtleties and those differences, right? And this guy kept on telling us that he's a people person, sit with people. I'm like, there's something missing here.
You see, what you're saying is exactly what I've been saying. You have to be people's person. Yes, you have to. But again, as I said, there's other things behind just talking to people.
Yeah.
Because I can be talking to you and I leave the room after talking to you and I think I've got everything and I go sit down. Don't challenge. I don't take down the information that I've got and test it. Right? But I've spoken to you. And I've taken what you've given me and I wrote the document and I sent it. And that's where most people that are calling themselves people's person.
So like, what mistakes, because, you've worked with other business analysts, you've mentored junior business analysts,
yes.
Right? What mistakes do you see people that are junior business analysts make?
Okay. First mistake that they make, it's what I've mentioned earlier. Thinking they know. Right? So you don't think, you don't go into a project or a solution design as if you know something. You don't know what you don't know. Right? The second one that they do is to avoid asking those difficult questions. Right? They avoid those questions and try and create answers without asking questions. And then the third one, which I think is, I think it's a human thing, right? The third one, where you try to find the best way to put it, where you feel that you're better than the next, right? You go into a meeting with the techies, right? You want to enforce your idea. You stand there and you're forcing it. This is how I wrote it. This is how it must be built. You don't allow other people to talk. You don't allow to take feedback. More especially when you feel that you've done enough analysis, you've spoken to the stakeholders, right? And you've written this nice document and you understand exactly what needs to happen in your head. And then you're giving it to the next level and you don't listen to those people, which is the biggest mistake. You can never be perfect. You need to listen to other people. You need to allow other people to give input and feedback on what you're doing and give them time. So it's very important as a business analyst that what's the right word? To be humble. arrogance is not going to help.
So just because you've spoken to stakeholders and then you've documented the requirements, like you must still be able to accept feedback.
The feedback, yeah.
You know, because developers, they might pick some, you know, I find like security, or maybe we can't do this because technically this security thing doesn't work this way. So you always have to make sure that you listen to people.
It's very important that you listen to people. I think those are the three biggest mistakes that I've noticed in this time that I've been in the business. I've made some of those mistakes myself, right? Went there and I told myself that nobody's going to change this. More especially during the waterfall stage, right? Was you would have spent 2-3 weeks writing that document and back and forth. And now you're at the end and you want to hand it over, and then somebody comes and tells you, no, it's not going to work. You know.
I think that's why we're changing to Agile.
So that's one of the biggest mistakes. And also, as I said, the other one is you think you know everything. You go and build a Datsun that runs very nice, but the client wants a BMW. And you'll see that at the end because you went there thinking you know everything.
So Brapums, the other thing, you know, that I wanted to ask you is that, and this is just so that, you know, it can help some of the viewers and the listeners of this podcast, especially people that are maybe like early in their career as business analysts, right? So you've been through all the levels, right? You've been through, like, you've been a senior business analyst for years, and you moved into a more strategic role of a product owner, right? Which is a slightly different. Like, as you grow as a business analyst to being a product owner, which is a more strategic other, you know, I can say version of a business analyst. What has shifted in terms of how you view a business analyst role? Like, what has shifted for you?
What for me has shifted is now that at the space where we are today, business analysts are not just business analysts. We should be calling ourselves solutions analysts, right? Because that's where we are now. We are involved from the beginning to the end, and we're part of that solution. Even post deployment into production, we're still there to check if the performance that we expected is happening. The returns on investment, we're part of that now, right? We're not just taking the requirements and hand them over and then go and start another project and forget about that.
So that's how it used to be before.
Before, you had to, if you've done your project, your requirements document, and they're signed off, you give them to the to the developers.
Team,
Developers write, and then the testers test. When there's a bug, they call you. You just relook at the bug and says, no, but the requirements are clear. Tech, fix it. Right? So, and then you leave. You're already starting with another project. Right? So you don't even care after that what happens. Sometimes you don't even know that project was never delivered. Right? But now you are part of it. You are part of the decision making as well. With the tech team, when do we go live? During that time of deployment, you are there to make sure that everything goes smooth. Tomorrow, the next day, you are also there when the users are starting to use the solution to check if there are any things or any issues that are picked up. And then later on, you are also involved to check, did we achieve the goal that we wanted to? So if it was to cut down the time, did we cut the time that the users took to do a certain piece of work by the number, that percentage that we wanted to do, or the number that we wanted to do? And yes, if not, what is it that we could have done differently? Call everyone who's part of the project into a meeting and says, okay, it's been a month since we've delivered this. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? If not, what is it that we've delivered? The product is there, is live in production, but it's not doing what we wanted it.
Also, now there's that sense of ownership.
Ownership, you own it. It's
you
yours.
Own it.
It's yours.
Yeah.
You want to see it till the end. Right? It's not like the snake, you give birth to a child and you leave it there to live on its own. It's your child. You want to nurture that child and make sure that it's growing up, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So what, from your experience, like, what's harder to manage? Is it managing systems or is it managing people? And their expectations?
I think if I want a good night's sleep, I would manage systems and only get that call once every day when this alert system tells something is down and wake up and solve it.
Yeah.
But for me, I love people. I don't want to sound like the guy that says people's person. No, I love working with people. I love the challenges that people bring on the table. They're frustrating, but they also, in that frustration, there's growth for you. Right? So I love that. So I would choose any day to be people's manager than just a systems manager. Just because of the element of engaging and learning from people. It's there's one thing that they said, it's easy to learn a system, right? But to learn how to deal with people, it's an ongoing thing. It can take me 2 years to really fully understand who you are, but it can take me 3 days to understand how each system works. So as a business analyst, it's not all about, what's another mistake that when you ask me a question about the mistakes, one other mistake that I used to do, and I think some of the BAs are doing, when they build a solution, they look at the tool.
They look at
the tool. So
the tool,
right? So when you build, let's say you're building the whatever that we need to improve, but this system called ABC cannot do this. This system is limited to that. They concentrate more on what the system can do than what the business wants. Because remember, a system is a system. You can always make it do things. So concentrating on the tool itself and not the requirements or what the problem is that you want to solve might even change your way of doing things, because now you'll start putting limitations on what needs to happen based on what the tool can do. Because as a business analyst, not everything can be fixed by the tool, right? It might just be a process that needs to be changed. We don't need to do a system upgrade. We just need to change the process of how the users are using the system. It might just as a kind of changing the times of when things are done, right? It's all, that's what the business analysts do. Because the minute they said, oh, no, we've got a problem with this, we run and say, okay, can this system do this? We don't even try and understand what is the problem really a system, or is the problem a process, or is the problem the time that things are done? We maybe need to change running our batches at night, run them first thing in the morning, because there's a lot of traffic at night. Those are the kind of things that a business analyst must do.
So Brapums, I think we've spoken about a lot of aspects of what a business analyst does, right? And there's learning systems, understanding systems, there's understanding tech, how to speak to developers, understanding stakeholders. So there's a lot of stakeholder management. You've spoken about conflicting priorities. So there's a lot of conflict management and prioritization. Let's talk about the skills now, right? So as a business, if I were to ask you to say that as a business analyst, what are your 4-5 skills that you absolutely have to have as a business analyst?
Okay. A curious mind, right? You need to have that. So you must be inquisitive. That's an important skill. You must be able to talk to people, which is explain yourself, explain something. You must be able to articulate point. And the third one, you should be able to use the tools, right? So talking about different tools that are required. So if you have to draw documents, draw any diagrams, you have to know which tools to use to draw the diagram. You can't use a certain tool to do a different thing, right? So you need to know. If it's a Miro thing, you must use Miro. If it's you need Visio to do this, you use Visio. If it's a PowerPoint, you need to do this, you must know, you must use PowerPoint to do that. That is very important. That everything that you do needs a certain tool. You must know which tools are that. Technology is very important. You must be able to use technology. Technology, we're in the AI space now. If you are a BA and you are not there, making sure that you need to be part of AI is very resilience.
Resilience.
Resilience is one of those words that I have to sit next to the wall to say them. Resilience is very important, right? And you in a ever-changing space. You need to be there, and you need to take care of yourself as well. It's not all about work, right? It's about people as well. You need to have that part of us, that empathy, that you're working with individuals, working with people. You need to understand. So, for example, if you've got your developers and there's a deadline, you need to be able to say, okay, this work is too much, the deadline is close. You go to the quickly in time, be able to check, and then you take that information back to your stakeholder or your sponsor to say, I know we've agreed on this deadline, but I'm looking at these people, they're burning out. Can we move this by another week? Or can we cut the delivery instead of going for 80%, let's go for 60% on this date. And then we then do another 20%. And then, so it's one of those things that is important. We have to have eye for people. The people that
sounds like you have to know how to negotiate as well.
Negotiation is very important. That's why I said articulate yourself, because that's part of what you do. When you go back and say, I need this to change. And another thing, you don't do that on the 11th hour. You need to be proactive. You don't react. Right? When you see now we're not going to finish, then you're reacting. You need to see up front, So the daily stand-ups, the quick check-ins, the bathroom talks, the smoke talks with the guys. See someone going for a coffee, just take a walk with that person just to understand. Are you comfortable? Are we still okay? So I said some of these things you hear outside the meeting rooms, the talks that you have when one is having a smoke outside or having a cup of coffee.
So it's important to always be engaging.
You engage all the time.
So tell me, Brapoms, because one of the things that I really want to, or one of the questions that I actually get, from a lot of, the viewers is that people want to know. People ask me questions because we have high unemployment rate in South Africa, right? And some of it is because we have people that are sitting with degrees and they're struggling to find work. And sometimes it's just because of where the demand is at the moment, right? Someone studied a different degree and then they're listening to this podcast right now and they're really interested in becoming a business analyst because they feel like all those attributes that we're talking about, they love chatting to people, they love, making sure that people understand each other, they have the passion for tech as well, and they want to move into this role, right? Someone who studied a different degree and they want to move into this role, where would you suggest someone like that to start?
Okay. So the first thing is, I said there is this institution called IIBA.
IIBA.
Yes. You can go online, check IIBA and subscribe. They bit stiff in terms of subscription fee, but it's a good one. I'm just stiff for people who are unemployed, right? But if you are already employed, you can have that and just subscribe.
What value do you get from there?
So what you get from there, they have ceremonies or nights, coffee nights, where they talk about different things about business analysis. And also you get to get the babok, you get to ask, because it's a community of BAs where you get to ask things, you get to question, you get to know which spaces have got job openings and all of that, which companies have got internships. They've got the full list of things that a starting BA can use, right? And secondly, there's also a place called FTI where they're offering the advanced certificate in business analysis. You can also do a longer one where you get a diploma in business analysis.
How long are these certificates? Is the certificate enough, or does someone has to get a diploma now? Or
So to start with, remember I said business analyst is not a degree that you will get at school. There's no university that says Bachelor of Business Analysis, right? It's something that you go and study something else and then you come back. And then whilst you are doing your current job, as I said, curiosity, you learn the domain.
So it's more open.
It's more open.
If someone really wants to learn, they can get certified.
You can find someone who's got a PhD in medicine becoming a business analyst, because it's all business analysis is, again, as I said, it's the curiosity and wanting to improve things, wanting to make things better. So it's that. So those places that I've mentioned, they give you a specific training in the role itself, right? They give you all the pointers and the ideas of how to run this. And now you also then move. There's other spaces where you can go, because, as I said, there's a PO now. Progress from BA to a PO, or you can go straight to a PO.
Which is a product owner.
Product owner, yes. That product owner, then in some companies, then like our company, you do everything. You are a Scrum Master, you are a business analyst, and you are a product owner. So
if you were to list just 1, 2, 3, let's say like courses or skills that someone needs to get in order to transition, what will be your 3, 4 skills?
So
certifications, maybe like short courses.
Yeah. So as I said, you've got your advanced business analysis course that you do, and now you need to understand Agile. We're in the Agile, so you're Agile certified. You must be Agile certified, and then the other one is SAFE. There's a company, the institution called SAFE, where you do your business analysis as well. Another skill that, as I said, it's other ones are more domain based, right? You need to understand your domain. You need to know where you are.
But that's more in the business.
That's more in the business. But before that, there's the 3 places, the 3 things that I've mentioned. You just need to know to get your certification in these places. As I said, FTI is one of them, and then you do SAFE as well, which is you can do them online, and then also Agile. You need to learn Agile. It's very important.
So what I'll do, Prapums, is that I'll get some of those links from you after, because what I can do is that from the viewers that are watching this in the video form, I'll just share the links in the description, so that people can just click links and actually have access to some of this information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And what would you advise someone who is a business analyst, right? Yeah. But they are stuck in a role, like when you feel like you've been in this role, but you're not progressing.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of people that sometimes they feel like they are just stagnant. Like, what advice would you give to someone like that to progress to more strategic roles?
So, as I said, it's your interest. You need to show interest in moving forward, right? Because nobody's going to do that for you. If I look at you as a business analyst under me and I see you comfortable, you're just happy to do what you need to do to finish the job, right? I feel that you're comfortable. But if you're showing interest of moving forward, right, you talk to other people, right? That's what I've done.
So you have to show interest.
You have to show interest. You have to. Right? And you have to start talking to people outside. So if, for example, to being in the management, in the strategic position, who is in that position already? Let me have a chat. How did you get here? What can you do? What can I do to get to where you are? Can I shadow you at certain times, certain things? It's very important that you need to show interest. And also, it's very important whilst you do your job, don't just do it to tick the box. Do it so that everyone around you can notice. We're in a company where your relationship is the best. It's your currency. That's right. So you need to build those relationships and do well, so that people see what you're doing, so that people can recommend you. You sometimes you get recommended based on your output. So this person is doing so well in this job, and this person, we think, if we can give this person an opportunity somewhere else, that person will do well. But it's important that also you show interest. Start asking, be curious about what's happening next door. If you want to go next door, go and get the smell of next door. How does it smell there?
Yeah.
See if you would like the smell. You know what I'm saying?
And would you say, being a business analyst is a rewarding career?
It is for me, right?
Yeah.
And I think for anyone who likes to see improvement, it will be a rewarding career for that person, because all you do is solve the problems, right? So whatever it's built because there was a question. Now you're building an answer to that question. So if you get that answer right, that's always rewarding. If you get to see what you've been part of getting better, you then start saying, well, I've done well. So that's what we should all strive for in any career. Whatever you do it so that when you sit back and look back to what you've done, you are proud of. Business analysis gives you that. If you, as I said, if you don't only write requirements and throw someone's desk, if you're involved up until the end, to a point that you also check if those returns on investments are there, are we getting back what we wanted to do? It's quite rewarding. And failure in the business analysis is a very good thing. It's a learning. So if you did,
you will fail.
You will fail. I mean, you won't always get it right. I mean, but if you fail, take that as a learning. This is okay. This is what I did this time. How can I improve the next time?
So before we close, Prapums, I've asked you like all the questions, and I think I've gotten a lot of value out of this. But is there something else that you feel like you want to share with our viewers and listeners, just around business analysis or just around careers in general, that you think it's important that I maybe did not get a chance to ask you?
Yeah, so there is a question around, is business analysis still required in the Agile era? Is the role of a business analyst still required?
That's strange to me.
Yeah, so if you look at the Agile or Scrum team in the Agile space, doesn't have a role called business analyst. You've got your Scrum Master, you've got your PO, you've got your Scrum team, which would consist of developers and testers. There's no BA in the structure. So people now, when they see that, they ask the question, do we then still need a BA? Yes, my answer is there will always be a need for a business analyst. Agile or no Agile. That's a very important role in any tech company or tech business. That is very important. So people must not start looking at this and think there is no future for business analysts. And another thing, there's progression from business analyst to other spaces. You can move on. There is progression. You can move to a PO. You can be people's leader, team leader, technical leader. That happens because it gives you a wide view of what the company is. And you need to be intentional about that as well. You need to be intentional about you growing yourself. You need to be intentional about you wanting to move to the next level.
No, that's good, Prapums. So normally what I do is that every guest that comes here, I I get them to commit on record that
Okay.
that I know that based on this conversation, there will be a lot of questions, right, from the viewers and the listeners. Maybe around the topic that we touched on. Maybe people want to know more about something, or maybe people are curious about something, or someone just needs advice on something that only someone who specializes in that field can be able to help, right? So I normally ask people to say that the first 5 to 10 people that ask questions, can I direct them that are related to business analysts? Can I direct them to you so that at least they can get them answered by someone like yourself?
You can send the first 100. I will take the first 100.
The first 100.
That's the commitment.
All right, Propose. I think me personally, I've learned a lot out of this conversation, and I hope that our viewers and listeners will really learn a lot about this, about what business analysis is, and just breaking some of those myths about what it is, what it's not, and what you guys actually do every day. Because I think you painted a clear picture on where you sit in the business, who you engage with, what are the skills that someone needs. I think it was quite clear, like, what is a business analyst. So thank you so much, man, for sharing the 26 years worth of knowledge.
I didn't even know it was that long.
I do my research.
I know you did.
So, Prof, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. I wish there was enough time. Right? Time is always a problem.